Part 1, Whispers Among Stars. The Ancient Warning. Across the vast expanse of the galactic hegemony, the name Earth had faded to legend. In the grand libraries of Talos Prime, beneath crystal domes that captured the light of 7 suns, only dusty datatomes spoke of the primitive species who had once dared challenge the Council of Eternal Stars. Humans were considered extinct, a cautionary tale of pride before the fall. Admiral Doric, the towering blue-scaled Nathrian who commanded the Council's Archives Division, chuckled as he studied the ancient scroll. His massive claws delicately traced the strange symbols etched into the material that shimmered despite millennia of neglect. "Fascinating, isn't it?" his assistant, Lyrax, chirped from across the chamber. "The prophecy that frightened our ancestors." "Superstition," Doric rumbled, his secondary breathing gills fluttering in amusement. "A primitive species threatening to return as galaxies flame after their homeworld was reduced to ash? We have monitored the Sol system for 8 centuries. Nothing survives there." The prophecy itself was simple, translated from the ancient human language: "When stars forget our name, we shall return. Forged in silence, tempered in darkness, we are the flame that never dies." "Still," Lyrax persisted, her translucent wings quivering with excitement, "Counselor the Rix insists we increase patrols in the dead sectors. She claims anomalous energy readings." "Politicians," Doric interrupted with a dismissive wave. "Always seeking threats to justify their positions." Neither noticed the small probe hovering outside the archive's crystal walls, recording every word. Signals in the void. 200 light-years away, aboard the stealth vessel Prometheus Rising, Admiral Javier Blackwood replayed the transmission. His weathered face remained impassive, but his eyes, enhanced with neural implants that glowed faintly amber, reflected centuries of patient waiting. "They still believe we're extinct," he said quietly to the bridge crew. "Perfect." Lieutenant Freya Okafor, their tactical specialist, looked up from her console. Her dark skin contrasted with the silver neural pathways visible just beneath the surface, enhancements that connected her directly to the ship's systems. "All sleeper cells report ready, Admiral," she reported. "The Ghost Network is fully operational. Mankind's children await your command." Javier stood, walking to the viewport that showed only darkness. The Prometheus Rising drifted in the empty space between galaxies, in a void where no Council ship would ever patrol. Here, hidden from all sensors, humanity had rebuilt. 800 years, he whispered. 8 centuries since the Purge, since they tried to erase us. How many humans remain now, Freya? 17 million, Admiral. All enhanced. All awakened. All waiting. Javier nodded slowly. Unlike the Council races who measured lifespans in mere centuries, the humans who had escaped Earth's destruction had evolved. Through necessity and burning determination, they had conquered death itself. Javier was over 600 years old, his body preserved through technologies the Council had forbidden, his mind expanded through neural interfaces they had feared. "Begin Operation Lazarus," he ordered. "It's time the galaxy remembered us." First echoes. On the mining colony of Draxus 9, Governor Veleth was celebrating another record production cycle. The crystalline inhabitants of the system had been particularly efficient this season, extracting precious quendium from the planet's core at rates that would please the Council. The celebration ended when all communication systems simultaneously failed. "Probably solar flare activity," Chief Engineer Borden suggested, his facial tentacles twitching nervously. "The star has been unstable." The words died as the station's emergency lights flared red. On every screen in the facility, a single symbol appeared, a phoenix rising from flames, wrapped around a simplified depiction of the human home planet. Then came the voice, speaking the standard galactic tongue, but with an accent no living being had heard in centuries. "This is a message for the Council of Eternal Stars. We have watched. We have waited. We have evolved. The children of Earth have returned." The transmission cut, and normal systems returned immediately. Governor Veleth ordered immediate contact with the council, only to discover that identical messages had appeared simultaneously on thousands of worlds across the hegemony. The council stirs. The emergency session of the council was chaotic. Representatives from 37 species argued as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Impossible, thundered Councillor Zraxis, the massive reptilian slamming his fist on the ancient table. The humans were primitive savages. They could not have survived the cleansing. Councillor the Rix, her luminescent skin flickering with stress patterns, projected images above the table. These vessels were captured on deep space scanners near the prohibited zone. They match no known design. The images showed sleek, black ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved in ways that defied known physics, leaving no energy trail, appearing and disappearing as if slipping between dimensions. "And what of the attacks?" asked the Merithian representative, voice trembling. 12 outposts gone silent, the Rix confirmed. No distress calls. No survivors. Just this symbol left behind. The phoenix emblem rotated above the table, casting an ominous red glow on the assembled leaders. From the shadows of the chamber, Grand Archivist Pelvones stepped forward. Unlike the others, the ancient being showed no surprise. "I warned you," the archivist whispered, "when you ordered the cleansing. I told you what the prophecy foretold." "Superstition." Zraxis spat. "Then explain," Pelvones challenged, "how a supposedly extinct species has weapons that can bypass our best defenses. How they have ships that move like ghosts. How they broadcast simultaneously to thousands of worlds, overriding our most secure networks." Silence fell across the chamber. "We believed we were gods," the archivist continued, "deciding which species deserved to live among the stars. We judged humanity too dangerous, too unpredictable. We tried to exterminate them to preserve our control." In the uncomfortable silence that followed, a junior communications officer burst into the chamber, protocol forgotten in his panic. "Counselors," he gasped, "we've detected a massive energy signature approaching Talos Prime. It's larger than anything in our records." Above the central galaxy map, a massive vessel appeared, a dreadnought unlike any they had seen before. At its head, emblazoned in burning light, was the phoenix symbol. On every communication channel across the council chambers, a message began to play. 800 years ago, you came to Earth. You offered friendship, then betrayal. You thought us primitive, so you attempted genocide. But some of us escaped. Some of us remembered. Some of us waited. Now, we have returned, not for vengeance, but for justice. The flame of humanity was never extinguished. It merely burned in shadows, growing stronger with each passing year. As the message played, Council defense systems went offline one by one. The greatest civilization in the galaxy found itself suddenly, terrifyingly vulnerable. The age of human extinction was over. The age of reckoning had begun. Part 2, Ghosts of Terra. The Shadow Commander. Deep within the heart of an abandoned mining asteroid in what was once called the Kuiper Belt, Commander Nix Volkov stood before a holographic display of the unfolding chaos. Unlike Admiral Blackwood with his refined manners and strategic patience, Nix was a weapon forged in humanity's darkest hour, born in the secret chambers beneath Europa's ice, never knowing Earth except through memories passed down through neural implants. Her silver hair was cropped military short, and a network of faint blue lines traced her skin, the visible sign of advanced nanotechnology coursing through her veins. She didn't just command her elite strike force, she was physically linked to each of her 50 warriors through the Nexus. "Status report," she demanded, her voice calm despite the adrenaline pumping through her enhanced system. Colonel Riker Thorne, her second-in-command, stepped forward. The left side of his face was entirely synthetic, a reminder of his last encounter with Council forces before the awakening. "Operation Phantom Strike is proceeding according to plan," he reported. Teams have neutralized defense systems in 7 key sectors. The Council is blind in the Orion Arm. Nix nodded, reaching out to touch the representation of Talos Prime where Admiral Blackwood's dreadnought, the Phoenix Ascendant, had made its dramatic appearance. And our infiltration units? Ghost Team reports successful penetration of the Archive Citadel, Riker confirmed. Agent Cassandra has accessed the Purge records. The truth about what they did to Earth will be broadcast across all their networks within the hour. A cold smile touched Nix's lips. Perfect. Let their own people see what their leaders have hidden for centuries. The first strike. On the frontier mining world of Cabraxis 4, Overseer Drelthak was having a perfectly ordinary cycle until the alarms began blaring. The Phyrexia administrator rushed to the control center, his crystalline exoskeleton clicking anxiously against the metallic floor. Report, he demanded of the security chief. Unidentified vessels, the subordinate responded, mandibles twitching nervously. They appeared out of nowhere, no hyperspace signature, no warp bubble. They just materialized. The main screen showed 3 sleek black ships, their surfaces seeming to bend light around them. They hung motionless above the colony's main processing facility, the installation that refined the rare minerals the Council needed for their most advanced technologies. Open communications, Drelthak ordered, straightening his posture. Unidentified vessels, this is a Council-protected world. State your intentions or... The transmission cut mid-sentence as power systems throughout the colony flickered. When the screens reactivated, a human face filled the display, a female with striking features and those strange glowing eyes that seemed to be a hallmark of their species. This world, Commander Nix stated flatly, was once an outpost of humanity. Before the Purge, we called it Titan Base. 5,000 human colonists lived here before Council ships bombarded it from orbit. No warnings. No evacuations. Just extermination. Drelthak's inner membranes pulsed with anxiety. That's ancient history. Before my species even joined the hegemony. History is never truly past, Nix replied. Especially when justice was never served. The screens went dark. Moments later, precision strikes disabled the colony's defensive systems and communication arrays. Within 20 minutes, 50 human warriors, each moving with impossible speed and coordination, had secured the entire facility. Not a single shot had been fired. Not a single life had been taken. When it was over, Commander Nix stood in the colony's central plaza, addressing the assembled alien workers. You will not be harmed, she announced, her voice carrying easily across the frightened crowd. Unlike your council, we do not massacre civilians. You will be provided transport to the nearest council outpost. She gestured, and her soldiers began distributing small crystal data spheres to the workers. Take these. They contain the truth about what your council did to humanity. Share them. Because what happens next will make sense only when you understand why we have returned. As the humans prepared to depart, Overseer Drelthak found the courage to approach Nix. What are you planning to do with our facility? He asked. Nix's glowing eyes fixed on him. Reclaiming what was once ours. This colony stands on human bones. We're taking it back. Revelation spreading. In the council chambers on Talos Prime, panic had given way to grim determination. The initial shock of humanity's return was being replaced by military mobilization. The Council's vast fleets were being recalled from across the galaxy to defend core worlds. Councillor Raxus thundered orders from his command post. I want every available warship at these coordinates. These humans have overplayed their hand. One dreadnought, no matter how advanced, cannot stand against the combined might of our armada. But Grand Archivist Pelvones watched with growing unease as reports continued to flood in. It wasn't just one dreadnought. Human strike forces were appearing simultaneously across dozens of systems, always targeting installations built on former human worlds, always displaying the same terrifying precision. And worse, the Purge records, documents sealed for 8 centuries under the highest security protocols, were now spreading uncontrollably across the galactic networks. Billions of citizens across thousands of worlds were learning for the first time about the Council's darkest secret, the deliberate extermination of a sentient species not for any crime, but out of fear of human potential. "You should have let me destroy those records centuries ago," Zraxus growled at the archivist. "And compound one atrocity with another?" Pelvones replied softly. "History cannot be erased, Counselor. It can only be confronted or denied. We chose denial. Now we face the consequences." The awakened ones. On the captured mining colony, Commander Nix Volkov stood in what had once been the Overseer's quarters, now converted to a forward command post. Colonel Riker entered, followed by a slender figure wrapped in a hooded cloak. "The awakened one is here," Riker announced. Nix turned, inclining her head with rare respect as the figure lowered its hood. Beneath was a young woman with features that appeared almost ordinary until one noticed the faint luminescence that seemed to emanate from beneath her skin. This was Iris Novak, one of the rarest and most valuable resources humanity possessed, a fully manifested psionic. "The preparations are complete," Iris said, her voice carrying strange harmonics that seemed to reverberate in the mind rather than the ear. "I can feel the nexus points aligning." Nix nodded. "Begin the awakening sequence." Iris seated herself cross-legged on the floor, closing her eyes as the glow beneath her skin intensified. Throughout the facility, human soldiers paused in their duties, their eyes briefly flaring with the same inner light. Deep beneath the colony's surface, in chambers that predated the alien mining operation, ancient machinery hummed to life, technology the Council believed had been destroyed centuries ago. The human consciousness network that Admiral Blackwood had activated with his appearance at Talos Prime was now expanding, linking with similar hidden installations across dozens of worlds. On the captured mining colony and at every other reclaimed human outpost, a signal was broadcasting to every corner of the galaxy, not a message of threat or ultimatum, but a beacon for those who had waited in the darkness. "We have returned. The time of hiding is over. The Phoenix rises. The coming storm." In his private sanctum aboard the Phoenix Ascendant, Admiral Javier Blackwood received Commander Nix's confirmation. The first phase was complete. The Council now knew humanity had survived. The galaxy was learning the truth about the Purge. And most importantly, the ancient network was awakening. He turned to Lieutenant Freya Okafor. "Send word to Dr. Nakamura. Operation Memory Reclaimed is authorized." "Sir," Freya hesitated, "that will reveal the location of Sanctuary. Is that risk necessary?" Javier's amber eyes glowed with intensity. "For 8 centuries, we've hidden in the shadows, Lieutenant. We've watched our culture, our history, our very identity become myth. The Council tried to erase us from existence because they feared what we might become." He gestured to the viewport, where the Council's gathering armada was visible, hundreds of warships converging on the Phoenix Ascendant. "They were right to be afraid," he said quietly. "But not for the reasons they imagined. Humanity didn't survive because we were warriors, though we became that by necessity. We survived because what makes us human could not be extinguished by fire and death." "Hope," Freya whispered. "Hope," Javier agreed. "And now, it's time to show the galaxy what humanity has become while they thought us dead." As he spoke, the first Council warships opened fire on the Phoenix Ascendant. Their most powerful weapons splashed harmlessly against shields unlike any the galaxy had seen before. The storm had begun, but it was not the storm the Council expected. For as their sensors focused on the lone dreadnought, none noticed the small stealth vessel slipping past their perimeter, carrying Dr. Elise Nakamura toward the heart of the Archive Citadel, and the final proof of the Council's treachery. Part 3, The Archive of Truth. The Scholar's Mission. Dr. Elise Nakamura had never seen combat. Unlike Admiral Blackwood or Commander Volkov, her battlefield was knowledge. For 3 centuries, she had led humanity's effort to preserve what remained of Earth's legacy, its art, its literature, its history, all while developing the technologies that had transformed the remnants of humanity into something new. As her stealth vessel, the Mnemosyne, slipped through the Council's defensive net around Talos Prime, Elise studied the holographic schematics of the Archive Citadel. Her eyes, enhanced like all surviving humans but modified for data processing rather than combat, flickered rapidly as she absorbed the complex information. The Council's earliest records are stored in the Vault of Antiquity, she explained to her small team of specialists. Physical documents, not digital copies. Records even their own people haven't seen in millennia. Operative Takashi Jean, her security lead, frowned. What exactly are we looking for? Elisa's expression hardened. The Genesis Protocol. The original order that condemned humanity to extinction. We have the aftermath, the records of the purge itself. But we need the beginning, the reason why the Council decided we had to die. Will it matter? Asked Takashi. They tried to exterminate us. The why seems secondary. No. Elise shook her head firmly. If we're truly seeking justice, not vengeance, we need the complete truth. Because I suspect what we'll find isn't simply hatred or fear of humans, it's something more fundamental about what humanity represents to them. The Mnemosyne continued its silent approach, passing within meters of massive Council warships that remained fixated on Admiral Blackwood's dreadnought. Like all human vessels now, it utilized phase shift technology, not true invisibility but a partial displacement from normal spacetime that rendered it nearly undetectable. Prepare for infiltration, Elise ordered. Remember, we're scholars, not soldiers. We take nothing but information. We harm no one unless absolutely necessary. Takashi nodded grimly. That's assuming they extend us the same courtesy, Doctor. The Council's desperation. General Korzak, Supreme Commander of the Council Defense Forces, was not accustomed to failure. In his 3-century military career, he had crushed rebellions, pacified hostile species, and maintained the Pax Galactica with unwavering determination. But as he watched his fleet's most powerful weapons dissipate harmlessly against the shields of the human dreadnought, he felt something unfamiliar: doubt. Impossible, he muttered, his scaled hide darkening with stress coloration. No shield technology should be able to withstand concentrated fire from 50 warships. Sir, his tactical officer reported, our analysts believe they're using some form of phase displacement field. The energy isn't being absorbed or deflected, it's being shunted into another dimension. Korzak's inner eyelids flickered in surprise. Phase technology had been theorized but deemed impossible by Council scientists. Yet here it was, not only functional but perfected to a degree that rendered conventional weapons useless. What about the colonies? He demanded. Have we retaken any of the seized outposts? No, sir. Each attempt has been repelled with minimal casualties on either side. This was perhaps the most disturbing aspect. The humans were showing remarkable restraint. Despite their overwhelming technological advantage, they were carefully avoiding mass casualties. It made their actions harder to condemn, harder to rally the galaxy against. Sir, the communications officer interrupted, the Archivist Council is demanding to speak with you. Korzak suppressed a growl of frustration. The last thing he needed was interference from the scholarly branch of the government. Nevertheless, he activated the communication panel. The ancient face of Grand Archivist Pelvones appeared, looking even more troubled than usual. General, the Archivist began without preamble, our internal security has detected an intrusion in the Archive Citadel. Specifically, in the Vault of Antiquity. Korzak's blood ran cold. The humans are after the Genesis records. Yes. And I fear they will find them before your forces can intervene. Why not simply destroy these records? Korzak demanded. If they contain information that could further incite Because, General, Pelvones interrupted sharply, some sins cannot be hidden forever. The truth of what we did, what our ancestors did, to humanity was bound to emerge eventually. Perhaps it's time. That's borderline treason, archivist. No, the ancient being replied sadly. It's acceptance of consequences. 8 centuries ago, the council made a terrible decision based on fear. Now we face judgment for that decision. As the communication ended, General Korzak stared at the implacable human dreadnought. For the first time in his military career, he wondered if he was fighting on the wrong side of history. Revelations in the dust. The vault of antiquity lay deep beneath the gleaming towers of the archive citadel. Unlike the upper levels with their advanced technology and digital interfaces, the vault was deliberately primitive, physical documents stored in environmental chambers, accessible only through direct presence. No network connections, no digital copies, nothing that could be hacked or accessed remotely. Which was why Dr. Elise Nakamura now stood in the cavernous chamber, surrounded by the oldest records in the galaxy. Her team had bypassed the Council's security with almost embarrassing ease, their phase shift technology allowing them to simply walk through walls designed to stop conventional intruders. How will we find what we're looking for? Takashi asked, eyeing the seemingly endless shelves. There must be millions of documents here. Elise activated her neural implants, connecting to the team's shared network. I've uploaded translation matrices for all known Council languages. We're looking for documents dated to approximately Earth year 2157, the year before the first Council ships arrived in our solar system. The team spread out, scanning shelves methodically. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the occasional communication as potential documents were identified and rejected. Then, Operative Lien Wei's voice echoed with excitement, "Doctor, I've found something." Elise hurried to join her. On a dusty shelf, in a sealed crystal case that had clearly not been touched in centuries, lay a slim volume bound in some alien material. The title, translated through their implants, read simply, "The Human Question, Final Determination." With reverent care, Elise opened the case and began to scan the contents. As she read, her expression shifted from concentration to shock, and finally to a profound sadness. "It's worse than we imagined," she whispered. The document detailed the Council's first encounters with humanity, not hostile confrontations but secret observations spanning decades. It described human creativity, adaptability, emotional range, and technological advancement with clinical precision. And then it presented the conclusion that had doomed Earth. Unlike all other known sentient species who develop along predictable evolutionary paths, humans display cognitive and developmental patterns that cannot be mapped or contained within our existing frameworks. They advance not linearly but exponentially. They create not by improving existing systems but by conceptual leaps that defy prediction. Most alarmingly, they bond across species boundaries, forming cultural and emotional connections that could potentially destabilize the carefully balanced Council hierarchy. The unanimous determination of this Council is that human potential represents an existential threat to galactic stability. Not through malice or aggression, but through their fundamental nature which is incompatible with the order of civilized worlds. For the preservation of the greater good, Containment Protocol Omega is authorized. Earth and all human colonies are to be eliminated. No survivors can be permitted. The species Homo sapiens must be expunged from historical record and remembered only as a cautionary example of evolution gone awry. The document was signed by representatives of all 23 Council races from that era. "They killed us," Takashi said in disbelief, "because we were unpredictable?" "Because we represented change," Elise corrected softly. "Because our very existence threatened their static vision of civilization." She carefully recorded the entire document, along with dozens of supporting files that detailed the execution of the plan, the systematic destruction of human colonies, the final assault on Earth, and the subsequent censorship of all records. "We have what we came for," she announced. "Admiral Blackwood needs to see this immediately." The truth unbounded. As Dr. Nakamura's team prepared to depart with their precious historical evidence, alarms suddenly blared throughout the archive citadel. On screens throughout the facility, images began to appear, not just the Genesis Protocol documents they had discovered, but thousands of records detailing the purge, the deliberate destruction of human worlds, and the systematic erasure of humanity from galactic history. "This isn't us," Takashi said, confusion evident in his voice. "We haven't transmitted anything yet." A slow smile spread across Elisa's face. "No, but someone else has. It seems we have an ally within the archives." Indeed, in his private chambers, Grand Archivist Pelvones watched as the truth he had guarded for centuries spread across the galaxy. He had made his choice, not betrayal of his people, but atonement for their greatest sin. In the void of space between Admiral Blackwood's dreadnought and the Council's impotent armada, space itself began to distort as the true extent of humanity's evolution was finally revealed to the stars. Part 4, The Gifted Awakening. The Evolution Revealed. Operative Saren Orion stood motionless on the bridge of the stealth frigate Quantum Shade, her consciousness only partially present in her physical body. To the casual observer, she appeared to be a slender woman with olive skin and unusual golden eyes, beautiful perhaps, but not immediately threatening. Only the faint blue luminescence pulsing beneath her skin hinted at what she truly was. One of only 7 Omega-level psionics among the surviving humans, Saren represented the pinnacle of humanity's evolution during their 8 centuries of exile. What the Council had feared most had come to pass. Faced with extinction, humanity had not merely survived, they had transformed. "It's time," Admiral Blackwood's voice echoed in her mind, transmitted not through technology but through the vast psionic network that connected all enhanced humans. "Show them what we've become." Saren opened her eyes fully, the golden irises now glowing with inner light. Around her, the 12 other gifted operatives on her team did the same, their consciousness synchronizing through the nexus. "Initiating Revelation Protocol," she announced, her voice resonating with harmonic overtones that seemed to vibrate through reality itself. As one, the 13 gifted extended their awareness, not just their minds but the fundamental quantum connection that linked all consciousness in ways the Council races had never explored. Their combined psionic field expanded outward, enveloping first the Quantum Shade, then the space beyond. Between the Phoenix Ascendant and the Council Armada, space itself began to ripple like disturbed water. Colors that had no name in any language flashed across the void as the boundary between dimensions thinned. On the Council flagship, General Korzak stared in disbelief at the sensor readings. "What are they doing?" he demanded. No known technology could cause these spatial distortions. Before any of his officers could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered. The face that appeared belonged to Saren Orion, her eyes radiant with power. "This is not technology, General," she said, her voice somehow bypassing the ship's communication systems and manifesting directly in their minds. "This is evolution. What humanity became when you drove us to the brink. The gift unfolds." As Saren spoke, the dimensional rift expanded. Through it emerged vessels unlike any the Council had seen before, dozens, then hundreds of ships materializing from what appeared to be nowhere. But these were not conventional craft. They seemed almost alive, their surfaces flowing like liquid metal, responding to the thoughts of their pilots rather than physical controls. "For 8 centuries, Saren continued, her voice reaching not just the Council fleet but transmitting simultaneously to every world in the hegemony, we survived in the spaces between your stars. In the darkness your sensors couldn't penetrate. In dimensions your science couldn't access. The human vessels surrounded the Council fleet with impossible speed, appearing and disappearing as they phased partially in and out of reality. We call it the drift," Saren explained. "The layer between dimensions where consciousness and reality meet. Your ancestors sensed its potential but feared to explore it. We had no choice. Driven to extinction, we evolved beyond physical limitation. On thousands of worlds across the galaxy, alien citizens watched in awe as their skies filled with aurora-like manifestations, the visual echo of the psionic field now encompassing the galaxy. Through these lights, Saren's message continued to spread. We did not come for revenge. We came to reclaim our place among the stars. Not as conquerors, but as teachers. What you feared in us, our adaptability, our creativity, our capacity for change, these are not threats but gifts. Gifts we offer freely, despite what was done to us. The Council's Reckoning. In the Council chambers on Talos Prime, emergency sessions had devolved into chaos. The revelation of the Genesis Protocol had shattered the hegemony's carefully constructed narrative. Counselors who had never known the truth of humanity's extermination now turned on those who had kept the secret. Into this turmoil stepped Grand Archivist Pelvones, his ancient voice cutting through the din. 8 centuries ago, he announced, this council committed the greatest atrocity in galactic history. They encountered a species unlike any other, one whose potential could have led us all to new heights. Instead of embracing that potential, they chose extermination out of fear. He activated the central projection system, displaying the human vessels now surrounding the Council fleet, not attacking, simply containing. Look at what they've become, he continued. They manipulate dimensions our science barely comprehends. They've evolved abilities we dismissed as impossible. And yet, despite what we did to them, they offer peace. A new hologram appeared, Admiral Javier Blackwood standing on the bridge of the Phoenix Ascendant. This council sits in judgment of species across the galaxy, the Admiral stated, his voice firm but not unkind. Today, you face judgment for your own actions. Not from us, but from the citizens of every world who now know the truth about your founding sin. The chamber fell silent as the implications became clear. The Council's moral authority, the basis of their rule, had been irrevocably damaged. The Nexus expands. On the quantum shade, Saren Orion and her team maintain the vast psionic field, their combined consciousness touching minds across the galaxy. Through the Nexus, every enhanced human shared in this connection, not controlling but offering glimpses of human perspective, human creativity, human emotion. For beings who had evolved in more linear, predictable patterns, the experience was revelatory. The Council races had developed technologies through methodical improvement of existing principles. Humans invented through intuitive leaps, connecting seemingly unrelated concepts into something new. This is what you feared, Saren's voice echoed. Not our weapons, but our minds. The way we see patterns you cannot, imagine possibilities you would never consider. You feared we would change you. And you were right, we would have. Not through force, but through connection. Through the psionic network, aliens across the galaxy experienced flashes of human art, music, literature, the emotional dimensions that made humanity unique. They felt the fierce joy of human celebration, the deep sorrow of human grief, the boundless wonder of human curiosity. The choice. General Korzak stood frozen on his bridge, weapon systems targeted at the Phoenix Ascendant but unable to penetrate its defenses. The tactical situation was clear, humanity could have destroyed the Council fleet at any moment. Instead, they waited. A private communication channel opened on his console. The face that appeared belonged to Admiral Blackwood. General, the human said quietly, you have a choice to make. Not for the Council, but for yourself. For the future. What choice? Korzak demanded. Surrender? No. Partnership. The galaxy stands at a crossroads. The old Council is finished, the truth has seen to that. But something new can rise in its place. Something better. Korzak's inner eyelids flickered in confusion. You would forgive genocide so easily? Blackwood's expression hardened momentarily. Nothing about this is easy, General. Justice will be required for those who ordered our extinction. But vengeance against races who never knew the truth? That would make us no better than those who tried to erase us. The human admiral's next word surprised Korczak to his core. 800 years ago, your ancestors feared what humanity might become. They were right to be afraid, but not because we wished them harm. They feared us because deep down, they knew the static empire they'd built could not withstand the storm of change we represented. The general found himself nodding slowly. The council's stagnation had been evident to military minds for centuries, technological advancement slowing, exploration ceasing, the same traditions repeated for millennia without purpose. "What do you propose?" he asked finally. "A new beginning," Blackwood replied. "Not human dominance, not alien rule. A true galactic community where difference is not feared but celebrated. Where evolution, of mind, of society, of possibility, is embraced rather than suppressed." As he spoke, the psionic field surrounding the fleet pulsed with new intensity, not threatening but inviting. Throughout the galaxy, minds were opening to new possibilities, ancient barriers dissolving. The age of separation was ending. Something new was beginning, something neither human nor alien anticipated, but both would shape together. In the void between stars, humanity's gift to the galaxy unfolded, not conquest, but connection. Not revenge, but renaissance. The prophecy was fulfilled, but not as anyone had imagined. The children of Earth had returned, not as conquerors, but as catalysts for a transformation that would echo across the cosmos for millennia to come.